Right?
Yes.
We're not part of that one.
I used to work at that chamber.
Oh, okay.
Yes, I can refer you to membership manager now. Her name is Karina. It's a really good chamber to be a member of.
Oh, I mean, we'd love to stop by and check it out and see what they have.
Yeah. They always have,
offer.
the first events, you can just go and check it out.
Yes,
Yeah,
perfect. Nice. I know some most chambers have like membership one-on-ones every quarter or something
They
like that.
do. Yes, actually it's today.
Oh, really?
Right
Same time, yeah. Trying to
okay,
steal it
okay,
from
okay.
All right.
We should. We sponsor it.
We should. Well, we'll start because I want to be respectful of your guys' time. I have a hard stop at 2:55, so or 12.
Yeah, I was like,
Yeah, we're a long time.
So first, as a way of like, we're all adults. If you need to use the restroom, if you go out to the lobby, right of the elevators, that's where the restrooms are. So feel free, just come back through. If you need more water, just let us know. Jimmy John's will be delivered here shortly, and so just grab and go, and we'll just keep rolling. And so to avoid this just being like me just talking, I want to be able to make sure that I get in what is kind of the whole point of this. So number one, there is no sales pitch. All of a sudden, I'm not going to pull out life insurance apps or investment statements. The whole point of this is to be able to hopefully add value to what you're looking to do when it comes to sales, marketing, business development. Business development is just a fancy way of saying sales, let's be honest, okay? And whether you're a solopreneur, you're in sales and marketing, and you're trying to be able to just increase what's going on. The whole idea is that, hey, we're in 2020, and let's just make it the best year ever, right? Let's kick off this decade in the right way. So Julie and I were just kicking around this idea last year because she and I are pretty active, networkers, but more so it's networking with purpose, right? And so we're like, hey, let's see what we can do to add value. We know that the internet exists in its maturity, but a lot of times people struggle with having data or information that's specific to them. How does that work for me? Right? And how do I synthesize it? So that's what we thought that this could be, is a way to be able to help you train and develop. And then, of course, we open it up to our team. And so this, I'm not recording it for Zoom, but feel free to jump in on Facebook later to get this out. But what I want to be able to get is to make sure that you're in the right space. That's probably what you do, right? You either own your own business, you either are trying to get more clients, increase revenue. That's what we'll bring you here today. And so the main goal is to be able to, I don't want this to be just a one-off. This is something that's going to be consistent that we're going to do on a regular basis every single month. So typically we're going to try to roll it out every first Wednesday of the month over the lunch hour. And that way we can have it be growing on itself, right? So the next one that we're hosting is going to be in February, and I'll hit that at the very end. So basically, kind of who am I? I've been in sales and marketing since '03, really in financial services. Did a little stint, did some consulting work for a staffing firm before moving down here when I was up in Wisconsin. But I've been on the leadership side of things in helping teams grow and develop since almost, for now, coming on to a decade. It sounds fancier, by the way, when you say decade over 10 years, right? So there's power of words. And then what we want to be able to do is really start with why you're here. But most importantly, what I care about is not about what we're going to say. It's about that you walk away here going, okay, that's exactly what I was hoping to hear, and now here's some tactics in order for me to run with things. And so although I have an agenda that I created and that you guys might have seen or just thought, hey, maybe that kind of fits what I'm looking for, I want to hear from you. What are you looking to get out of the lunch today? Besides Jimmy John's and some pickles. So feel free to just grab some. But we'll start with Justin because he's furthest away from the sandwiches. What would you hope to get out of today?
For me, a better understanding of how to get... So I run a video production company. Mm-hmm. And so our biggest struggle right now is getting that first meeting with our client.
Okay.
So you try cold emailing, you try messaging on LinkedIn. That's usually not the best strategy. I tend to be an introvert, so I'm not great at networking. So pretty much that. That's what I want to learn.
Okay.
I'd like to learn.
Tony, how about you, buddy?
Yeah, well, I've been in sales for over 25 years, so
okay.
There's always new things that I can learn, and I'm trying to make sure I stay ahead of the curve as far as with technology and social media, and how can I best reach out and obtain new clients myself. That's really what I'm trying to do. Find new ways to do that.
Crucial, right?
Yeah.
Whatever got you here won't get you there, right? So that's extremely important. And Angel.
Pretty much the same as what Tony was saying. We're very like-minded. That's why when we met, we hit it off. We have the same passion in exceeding in our industry, and like he was saying, the trends, we have to keep on top of it. You know, just like doctors have to keep on top of their thing. In every single industry, you have to be on top of yours as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I heard social media. I want to write
Social
that down
media,
because that's a monster all on its own. Obviously,
Absolutely.
there's more than enough that you could probably kind of do, but we won't cover today. But we'll hit on some pieces. Julie, what about you?
Okay, so to elaborate what you say, same thing with recruiting or sales, you know, you have to keep in touch with people you got in. So I would like to know about that, you know, how to keep people curious, how to keep people going and contacting you, that long time relationship building.
That's a good one.
So a lot of times if you have had people that you sat down with that didn't, so they either said no or they just stopped contacting you, those are your best places to go. So right now I tell people in the first quarter, you should be looking at your list of 2019, who didn't say no and who never gave you an answer. So basically they kind of just fell off the face of the earth. Sometimes we say that they went into witness protection program because we can't get a hold of them. But when they're hot and heavy, they're all about having conversations with us. And so that's the best place to go, is that these people at some point express interest, and maybe for whatever reason it wasn't the right time. Okay, Kelly, what we're doing is we're going through and everyone's just saying, what do they want to make sure that we talk about today? We might not hit all those topics right now today, but I want to make sure that just because I created an agenda doesn't mean that that's what you came here to learn. And so I'd rather address what you're here to learn versus me go on some spiel. And so we'll come back to you in a second so you can hear everybody else, but we'll come here to Stephanie.
Yes.
Okay.
So I'm newer to my position, and although I do know what to do, I'd like to maybe have some ideas to be able to think outside the box, do something, just kind of like learn and do things that not everyone else in my position, especially since I'm mortgage specific, we're all doing the same thing. So I just would like to learn to be able to try to figure out new approaches.
Yes, okay. So that's really going to come down to how comfortable you are with failing.
Yeah.
And so the quicker that you can realize that you're going to have to do things that suck, right? Hold a presentation, one person's there, go to a networking event, they're all the wrong people, right? That's really where you're going to have to, in a sense, it's trial and error, right? It's the 10,000 ways that Thomas Edison figured out how to not do the light bulb, but there were 10,000 ways that he figured out not to do it. And this is the way to do it. So it comes that way. The toughest thing about it is, for work, is you're telling them, hey, I went to a networking event and it totally sucked, right? A lot of times they go, well, that was a waste of time. It wasn't a waste of time. I had to go there to know that we shouldn't be a member of the Greater Heights Chamber of Commerce. Not that you shouldn't. Good place. Just an example, okay?
Good example.
You actually make a really good point, because last year I went to several conferences in IT, and the one that I thought, when I showed up, I thought, oh, this has got to be the worst one. Actually, I got my best lead of the year from that conference. It was the smallest one. So because when I got there, I thought, oh, this is a lot smaller than I expected. But I got to meet the CIO from a prominent bank.
Perfect.
And we had a great conversation. So you never know. Even some small events, you might have a good conversation.
And please, grab plates, napkins, grab a sandwich. Thank you, Stephanie. And Raina?
No shame.
Yes. So I'm gonna, like Tony said, usually find new ways. I've been doing this for like 2.5 years or so now. So you're gonna like learn what works for you and what doesn't. But what I would like to learn, I guess, would be how to like change things up and not do everything like, oh, this is how we've done it every time. And I don't want to sound like boring if we, let's say, sponsor something and we just do the exact same thing.
Okay. Yeah, just because we've done it here for the last 5 years, I mean, we should still keep doing it that way, right?
Right.
Okay.
So, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, sit down, Christina. Make yourself at home, friend. What about you, Christina? What would you like to gain?
Pretty much tag on to everybody. Just Yeah, just growing to a new, I guess,
Can you get
type of clients.
Uh-huh.
Trying to find different kinds of clients, trying to find my niche, I guess.
Ooh, I like that. You must have looked at my packet because that's exactly what we're going to talk about. And then finally, Kelly. I don't know if you can read all my chicken scratching here, but we'll.
So mine is a little different. As I spoke to you earlier in the week, I work a nonprofit. So I guess I really want to know what businesses are looking for, what makes the ideal candidate, and then even just personally, I want good business development and just some little takeaways to not just help the agency, because that's definitely my clients, but just for me, just in transitioning and gaining new things for 2020 vision.
That's wonderful. And so that's one of the crucial things here. Hi, Carrie Ann on Facebook. Just type in if there's anything that you want to make sure that you learn if you're on Facebook Live. Kelly kind of hits it on the head, I think, for a lot of us, is that it's what can we be doing differently, not only for our business right now, but what can I gain skill-wise for myself in the future, right? So all of us have a past, right? And so 5 years ago, who was new to that? You're new to your role, Stephanie? Mm-hmm. And so 5 years ago, maybe you weren't in banking. 5 years ago, maybe you weren't on the business development side. Maybe 5 years ago, you were living in a different community like I was, in a tiny town in the middle of nowhere, Wisconsin. And so it's about identifying what you want to be able to do in order to do something different and get yourself different skills. So a lot of times when I think of skills, I think of the Batman tool, right? He's got like all these different things he throws out. And that's really what you're trying to gain, right? You're trying to gain different talents that are going to be able to help you, not only now, but also in the future. Yep, she's just watching. Okay. All right. So in this, I'm going to shift a little bit on what I was going to talk about. But first thing I want to identify for each of you is talk about why. So this is one of the biggest struggles that I see with a lot of people when it comes to business dev, is they run with the hammer. Video production. I can do video production. Who wants it? Who wants it? Who wants it, right? Who wants to buy this tool? The problem is they have no idea what that tool does for them, right? So if I can use video production, it's about awareness. It's about selling a story. If one picture speaks 1,000 words, video is millions of words, right? So you don't say, I have great company culture. You create a video that says, I have great company culture. There's literally a manufacturing company. They have 7-second to 10-second videos of their employees just talking about random hobbies that they have. So you don't need to say, hey, we have a great collection of individuals here in Detroit, Michigan. You can just say, hey, here's our YouTube. Here's what our employees say about themselves. One person, she's like, I love to ice fish. Another dude's like, I love to ride my Harley. Another person's like, I love working here because I can wear jeans and a t-shirt, right? And so it's about being able to share a story. And so that becomes a big struggle for a lot of people, is they don't know what that story is or how to even tell it. So that kind of jumps into personal development. Feel free, have a seat. Grab a Jimmy John's. I'm Sherman.
Ashley.
Ashley, a pleasure. So Ashley, we just recapped what everybody wants to know that they learned here today. Some people said, Justin had said, basically, how can I improve my networking, right? So you said no cold calling, LinkedIn messaging, or how can I get a little better at it? Other people said, I want to try new things, right? So I've been in sales, I've been in business development, but I know I need to do something that's maybe new, because what got me here won't get me there. And then finally, some people had mentioned social media. How do you, Julia mentioned like how to build long-term relationships, and just because there's a little bit longer of a relationship there, I think for her in regards to closing people and bringing them on board to her organization. And then someone said trying some outside the box thinking. I think that was Stephanie, yeah. And so that means you're embracing failure. So you're going to go to different networking events. You're going to try posting these things up. You might even do a blog and realize that you suck at writing. That's okay. Not everybody's good at writing. You might do a video. But you realize, you know what? You hate being in front of video. It's too awkward. It's so uncomfortable. You end up sweating so much that you can't do it. Or you realize that your voice is just too annoying. So, no offense, but not everybody's voice is meant for radio. Okay? Like Delilah. Delilah's got just a wonderful voice, right? That smoky. Anyway, and then finally is how can we differentiate ourselves? Kelly had mentioned not only can she gain a skill for herself, but then what can she do to be able to help her business grow and develop? Was there anything that prompted you to want to come today?
Keyword business development.
Okay. So I would say that it means increased sales.
Absolutely.
Okay. If I just cut through the jargon, right? Sometimes we want to avoid that word of sales just because we don't want to be quote unquote salesy. So again, I will email you guys some of the notes that we have from today, so these highlights, because probably I'm the only one that can understand the chicken touching that I wrote there. So this is where I want to start with all of you, is why do you do what you do? So this is at the heart of all of it, right? So for you, it might be to pay for bills, right? So if you might work for an organization, you're getting paid the 15th and 30th, you're getting paid once a month, you work in commissions. If you're entrepreneurial, why did you decide to start your own thing, right? That just because you could go work for somebody, you could use your talents and you could exchange your time for that. And so I know that sometimes there's this meme that goes around or this quote like, why build somebody else's dream when you can build your own? Dude, I don't think Steve Wozniak, the number 2 for Apple, is complaining about his billions and how he helped form Apple. I don't think he complained. I know Paul Allen didn't about his billions and buying the Seahawks, having crazy yachts, being the number 2 guy at Microsoft. But first, he was not even the number 2 guy because there's somebody else first who passed away, and then Paul took the next step. So the thing about being able to understand yourself well enough is it does start with why. And so I have a few questions in here. Feel free. There's pens. Let me get you a packet, actually. Carrie Ann, let me know if you want me to send you a packet. I think they're all right here. Sorry, does anyone else need one? Christine, did you get one? Oh, I'm sorry. I almost hit you in the face with that. Sorry about that. All right, you got it. You got it. Just flip it open. Tony, it's right in front of you.
Thank you.
All right. Do you need a pen? Or you got one? All right. Thank you, Julie. Appreciate that. So is anyone at a park where you're comfortable enough? Well, actually, let's just do this. Why don't each of you go around and just introduce yourself and what you do professionally? I know that you might play soccer, you might do taekwondo or MMA fighting, or like Justin, you box. But just share us what you do professionally. That way we can get a feel of who you are. And then feel free, pass out business cards. Want to make sure that you guys feel comfortable in being able to do that. So we'll start. First shall be last shall be first.
Okay. Hi everyone, I'm Christina Sigarostegui. I'm in real estate. I do primarily residential, but I'm starting to do commercial now. So, yeah.
Okay. Christina, oh, I forgot. Let's start with Ashley because she went truly with one. So.
Oh, okay.
Last one and first one out, right?
Yeah.
Okay. My name is Ashley Hart. I am in business development for a company called Now CFO. So we provide outsourced accounting services, anywhere from bookkeeping to controller to CFO level. Any kind of industry, we're in 30 blah, 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 elevator pitch, right?
Yeah.
So anyway.
I like it. And Raina.
Me. So I'm with Shell Federal Credit Union. I also do business development. We just promote the credit union and what we have to offer with all of our financial products and services.
I am Stephanie Tinchez, and I am also with Shell Federal Credit Union. I am the Mortgage Department Business Development Rep.
I'm Kelly Wesley. I am with SARE Jobs. We are a workforce-driven nonprofit, but we're also a financial opportunity center, and I'm the financial opportunity center coordinator.
I'm Julie Goxu. I'm the recruiter here at Mutual of Omaha and the Woodlands location. I hire financial advisors. So, if you know anyone, refer me.
Hi, I'm Angel Train. I'm with iBoomerang. We're a technology company that does travel, so it's kind of like Uber. They connect the rider with the driver. We connect the traveler with a free booking engine where they save up to 35% on the travel.
Hi, I'm Tony Cordo. I'm with Network Box. I love sales, so that's why I'm here, and I've been doing this for many years. As a business development manager, you should be excited about what you do, right? And I love technology. Technology is always changing. Cybersecurity, and there's always going to be threats. You know, our saying is that hackers never sleep, and neither do we. So you have to kind of be ahead of the bad guys. So this makes sense. Absolutely. Glad I'm here.
My name is Justin. I own a video production company and I suck at sales. So I'm here trying to technically great at video production, video editing, post-production, all that kind of stuff. But when it comes to getting the clients and all that kind of stuff, just working on it, work in progress. So
It's not easy. It takes time.
All right, wonderful. So with that, comfortability. Who can share their why? So I'll share with you mine. And so, how many of you read the book or heard of the book? Maybe saw a quick 10-minute TED Talk by Simon Sinek called "Start with Why." Okay, phenomenal. Feel free to YouTube it. It's even on Netflix under their TED Talks area, and it's about start with why. So instead of, I was going to show you a little bit of the clip, but he takes about basically 18 minutes to recap the entire book in its entirety. All that he does in a little bit more detail is that he shares some more different stories between Apple, Martin Luther King, the Wright brothers. It's phenomenal. But in that 18-minute video you can find on YouTube, he basically recaps all of it in a TED Talk. It's pretty phenomenal. And so one of the things that he introduces here is the circle. So the beauty of this one is probably, and he shares with it, the juxtaposition between Apple and Dell. So Apple is known for being innovative, trying to make our life simpler, right? They created the iPod when there was no iPod space. They created the iPad when tablets didn't even exist, right? If you looked at the phones at the time, the best thing was the Razor. Does anyone remember that awesome thing, the pink Razor? I had a pink Razor because I thought it was stylish. And the funny thing is, the CEO, you know what he said in an investor meeting? They asked him, what's the next thing after the Razor? And he kind of jokingly said, more razors. And now Motorola barely exists as a company, right? Their infrastructure is more on the emergency response and telecommunications that way, but they basically don't even exist in the cell phone space.
Come out of that, yeah, like last year or something?
Yeah.
Then now it's coming back around.
Yeah.
Trends of clothes.
They're trying to, yeah. And so when Apple comes out with a watch, we don't go, hey, you're not in the apparel business. You're not in the wristwatch business. But we know that they're there to make our lives simpler, make it easier. So technology is about innovation for us. And so that's really why we can connect with their why. People have no problem spending $1,100 for a cell phone, right? Or even standing in line to get a cell phone. To me, which is just a crazy idea that we're standing in line to get something that if I wait just 1 week, there won't be a line. People will camp out though because they want to be the first to be able to try it. It's craziness. So if you ask yourself what compels you, most people, the first reaction they're going to have is money. Okay, so then we haven't thought hard enough. We're not going beyond your bills. We want to go next step deeper. Okay, so let's say someone paid you all the money you needed, right? So mortgage, rent, groceries, whatever you needed, car payment, insurance, covered. What would you do?
Work.
Yeah. So now you're not compelled to work. So then someone would be like, well, I just sit on this beach sipping Mai Tais. If you don't have enough hobbies, you won't truly retire. And if you've ever met somebody that doesn't have purpose, they have no life. Like literally, like they. I remember sitting down with somebody, and he's like, I asked him, when are you going to retire? He's like, I'll never retire. My dad did crossword puzzles, and 6 months into retirement, died right in the chair. He had no purpose. He had no reason for living. My grandfather, unfortunately, that's exactly what happened for him. 75 years old, he retires, literally watches Korean soap operas all day long. Barely watched TV when I was growing up because he was always engaged with work, and that was his purpose. But he did not create enough hobbies to be able to have a sense of purpose and belonging beyond. So, if you think about that for yourself, again, money's not an object. What would you be doing? So when I went through this exercise for myself, I realized, okay, so I like building things, I like starting things from scratch, I like trying new things. A lot of times if I go to the grocery store and there's a fruit or vegetable I have not eaten in my mouth, my face hole, I'm like, I should put that in my face hole. So it was like jicama. This is distinctly what I remember. I was like, gee, maca? I don't know about this thing. then I looked it up, and it's jicama. Okay. So then I bought some, and I was like, now how the heck do I even cook this thing? Like, oh, you can like stir fry it. you're talking to an Asian person. This is easy. We stir fry everything. So then I'm like, okay, so, but what compels me to try new things? And so I was like, oh, well, growing up, I went to 3 high schools. Every 3 years we moved. That was kind of just the way I was in my upbringing. And so maybe I just like embracing change. I really embracing new. Doesn't sound very good, by the way, if you're married, that you're like, hey, I just like to try new things. I like to embrace the new. I like variety. Doesn't bode well. And then you start thinking, okay, so what is it about me? Like, what do I love doing? Now, it doesn't mean you need to be an Olympic athlete. It doesn't mean you need to be like freak of nature like Michael Phelps and go win 23 gold medals and 2 silvers. You don't have to be to that caliber, because 20% of the population, if you just use a normal bell curve, right? Do you remember these from school? Okay, I need to take a picture of this before I erase this. Sorry, these things are set down selfie mode because. Okay. So if you remember a normal bell curve when it comes to human production is everybody, to a certain extent from a production level, fits into this curve. Your average is 60% here. Your above average is going to be about 20% here, and your below average is going to be 20% here. It doesn't mean anything poorly of someone that's below average. It just means that typically they haven't found what they should be doing. People are forcing themselves to do something they shouldn't be doing. It's the doctor that's a physician because that's what mom and dad said him to do. And then now they're hundreds of thousands of dollars in debt, and so they have to go to the work, they have to go see patients because they need to pay off that debt. So they're doing things because they have to, not because they want to. When you see this time and time again in the business world. You'll probably see I put in there just a quick digression, this map, right? There's a multitude of versions of us, right? So there's the home version, there's the spiritual version, there's a physical version, there's a spiritual version, there's the family relationship version. So what we're going to talk about today is the professional side of things. So I know that what I'm going to be talking about contextually sounds like we're only talking about business. I know that you have a life, right? It's understandable. But you got to find that yin and yang, right? You got to find that balance of what that makes sense for you and being flexible. So the idea here is that if you're just above average, just so you know, the top 20% in what you're doing in your industry, and more likely not because you came to something like this today, it says more about you than it does about anybody else. It doesn't mean that anybody who didn't come to this is a bad person. It just means that you are interested in helping yourself get better. Using Justin's words, he knew that he sucked at sales. Well, what do? You figure out how to get good at sales. You either do it yourself or you find someone else to do it for you. And so as you look at your strengths, what am I good at? Right? Steve Wozniak was amazing at putting together the first Apple Mach 1. Steve Jobs was decent, but he was the visionary. He really could sell it to people. Bill Gates was surprisingly a unique combination of both. The man is just on a different level. It reminds me very much of Henry Ford, because Henry Ford literally built the first Ford car. By the way, he built it inside a garage. Remember, there wasn't garage doors back then because there was no cars. And so they literally had to break down the wall in order to get the car out because it was wider than the door, right? So it's just trial and error, right? Luckily, the little shed didn't fall on them. But it was in a garage because, again, you didn't have a garage. This was literally a workstation. So again, know your strengths. What are they? And be honest. I think one of the biggest fallacies in life, because you got this as a kid, and I do say the same thing to my kids to a certain extent, is that you need to fix on your weaknesses. Like one of my sons, he sucks at reading and writing, and I'm just like, then forget it. But he's in 3rd grade, so he's got to get to a certain level of reading and writing. But he's really good at math. So there's really good odds that if he decides to become an engineer, which is where you kind of go if you're good at math, or data analytics, he'll barely have to write anything. And if he does, it's just going to be like, look at this Excel spreadsheet, done, right? I don't need to write on this long-winded thing. But the problem is that you were taught you need to be well-rounded, you need to be, but we even know the phrase, right? Don't be a jack of all trades, you're a master of none. Mm-hmm. That's how it works in the business world. Your best, highly paid individuals are always specialists. And they spend barely any time on the things that they suck at. The things that they don't like doing, things that they don't enjoy doing. And so the successful people have figured out how to do it. So for example, right now we're into the playoff mode of football. So the quarterback is best at orchestrating, is best at throwing. If they're like Russell Wilson, they're decent at running around. But not all of them should be. That's what a running back's for. That's what a tailback's for, right? And so in that kind of scenario, someone needs to orchestrate, and that becomes the skill set. So that's why quarterbacks are paid so highly. If you look at the front line, there's like 6 to 8 people. They kind of do the same thing, push and pull, right? They aren't paid as highly as the quarterback because the quarterback's highly calibrated. You see the same thing in the medical profession. A neurosurgeon works only on the brain and the spine. That's it. I got the common cold. Neurosurgeon says, I have no idea how to help you. Brain, spine, I can help you. Cardiologist, same thing. All they do is this, the heart. Maybe some of the main veins as well, but mainly the heart. So you come in, hey, I got cancer in my brain. Can you help me? No, I can't. But they're highly paid because they only focus on one thing. So a lot of times, real estate, you might find, hey, I'm enjoying this real estate, the residential side, but actually I don't. I prefer to be in the commercial side. So then how do I transition over? How do I walk away from everything else? So one of the biggest things that people struggle with in business development is walking away. So you brought up niche. So let's just jump right there. Let me just take a step back. Anyone like to share with me or with the group, sorry, not just me, your why?
Don't everybody speak at once.
It's okay. It's okay. I'll give you time to stare at the screen.
Why I do what I do?
Yes.
It's so funny because somebody asked me that on LinkedIn. They were like, oh, okay, so you have done these different things, so how does it relate? And I had taught at the university, I had taught law before. I said recruiting is just like it. You know, you get to help people, you get to change lives, and you know, that's my purpose. I feel like I am changing people's lives and I'm helping them. So it motivates me every day, knowing that I might change somebody's life today. I might help their future to come to work.
And so the beauty of that, thank you for sharing, Julie. Let's give her a hand. Thank you for sharing, all right? So the beauty of that is that why existed when you're at the chamber, right? And you work there.
Yeah.
It existed when you're over at Robert Half, because again, you're helping people, you're changing lives, right? And so that if she decides that she wants to become a physician and go, it still aligns with her why, right? Mm-hmm. I knew a gentleman, he was a friend of mine up in Wisconsin, at the age of 36, sold his business. It was about, I think they were doing about 25 million revenue. They had about, there's 50 to 65 employees, depending on kind of the season. They were down in Arizona, and they were installing windows. And so we realized, you know what? I really want to go back and get a medical degree. Wow. Now this guy hadn't even finished undergrad.
Wow.
So he had quite the path. Yeah. So at the age of 33, he started doing online, did his undergraduate, but then had to do the prereqs because all that science, the biology, the chemistry, he had never done, the physics. And so finally, at the age of around 37, he was now entering medical school. So if you know medical school, that's 4 years. Mm-hmm. And then he was done with medical school. Then it was another 4 years of residency, and then 2 more years of a fellowship. So this guy, he ended up selling his business to his partner and was able to then walk away. But there's no tragedy in that. There's no, he wasn't a failure because he realized that, you know, in his early 30s that he wanted to do something different. There's nothing wrong with that narrative. We're very complimentary of what people, when they decide to walk away from something and go for something that they want. However, for some reason for us internally, we go, oh, but that's not for me. I need to be like super successful the moment that I touch something. Sometimes it doesn't happen that quickly. Right? Does anyone else want to share their why? Okay, so then align your why with the activities that you do. So a lot of times people will tell me they're an introvert. And then they force themselves to go to networking. And then they go to a networking event and they go like this. You know? They don't want to talk to anybody. Because they shouldn't go. They're forcing themselves to go to activities that don't align with their strengths. So again, find out where your strengths are and then leverage those. So again, we'll get to more. Yes,
so
Ashley.
that is actually my why, is because
Okay.
I'm naturally an introvert and I force myself to think outside the box, to do things outside the box, my comfort zone. I am an adrenaline junkie, so it actually gives me adrenaline to do something that I'm not accustomed to. And so, yeah, I'm a forced extrovert.
Okay, okay. Well, good for you.
I like
get out of that
challenges.
zone. I like it. Way to go. And so that can help. So in this, I'm going to shift over to inside the packet. And actually, I'm going to close this just because it's getting a little warm.
Did everyone get one?
All right. So in this, yeah, if you don't have one, just let me know. I'm going to flip over to, just let's talk about quickly the opportunity. Houston, by the way, I don't know if a lot of you know this, in the last 18 years when they did the census, has grown around 2.3 million people. And with that need of human beings comes a huge opportunity to sell services like banking, like housing, commercial, residential. You name the product or service that needs to be given to a larger population. Everything from plumbing of infrastructure to paving of asphalt, and then you add on top of the problems that we have when it comes to hurricanes. So then there's this. I met a guy that's what they do is flooding. So they'll literally install stuff to make your house waterproof for the first 1.5 feet or something crazy, 18 inches. So again, there's a huge niche for a lot of stuff. And so I just put this in here just to be able to help you identify the niche, the opportunity, because that becomes the biggest struggle. I think a lot of times is when you want to get anybody, right? I'll take everybody. I need everybody to put deposits here at the bank. I need everybody to be able to buy some IT, some financial security. I want everybody to travel with me, right? It's not going to happen that way. And if you're truly aware of kind of where you're at, especially as an entrepreneur or a person in biz dev, you get saturated around 300 to 500 connections, clients.
That's true.
Okay? Now, depending on how many there are, the better. So I just put this here as just an example of these top business owners. This is on page, 4. It just talks about Houston's top employers. So you could do a niche and say, I only want to go after the top employers. Now, just know from a pocket standpoint, everybody else is going after those top employers. Now, just so you're aware, small business, small biz, classified by the Small Business Administration, is under 500 employees. In Houston, just so you're aware, there are 38,000 of those businesses. Over 500, that is 2,800. So first, that'll help you identify where do you want to go. Do you want to focus on the smaller, which again makes you susceptible to competition outside of Houston. Now, Houston's one of these unique cities that continues to sprawl, right? Almost anywhere you live in Houston, you kind of think you're at the edge, right? And so even the Galleria, they think they're at the edge. But you aren't. You're a part of Houston. And so you can focus just in on that. And so you got to make sure then that you talk to the right people and you belong then to the right places. So if you want to focus on the large, the very, very large, then let's say we're going to look at chambers. The Greater Houston Partnership, although $1,000 a year of minimum entry is going to be far more productive for you than the West Houston, the Greater Heights, the niches like the Mexican American Chamber of Commerce, the Asian Association Chamber of Commerce, because again, in those you're not going to find those associations. And anyone that they send, if they sponsor that organization, it's just because they want to be seen in that small little niche. But the majority of the large ones are going to participate in the larger Greater Houston Partnership. If you want to focus on the smaller employees, then you got to find out where they play. And so, in this 38,000 employers, again, under 500. Just if you do the simple math, by the way, if everyone earns about $40,000 in there, 500 employees, that is, $20 million of just revenue on 500 employees. That's a pretty decent business, in my opinion. So, know where it starts. So again, it's this idea that you've probably seen before. It's like a funnel. And so in here I put a little segment on niche marketing. So does anyone in their experience, have they already identified what their niche is? Does anyone know who they're trying to talk to?
Well, like for our industry,
yes, Tony, yes.
Banking and credit unions is a huge vertical that we work with.
credit unions see you. Okay. And when it comes to IT, a lot of times people are like, I can help anybody, right? But when you say I only want to focus on that, it narrows down the pool. It narrows down the conversations. It makes it easier for you then to be able to have those conversations. And it then becomes true. All I do is specialize in working with banks and credit unions. And then let somebody else take care of those other niches, right? It does mean that you have to walk away from some business sometimes. Okay? You can't be everything to everybody. That's just the harsh reality of working with particular individuals or particular industries or anything else. Anyone else have a particular niche that they want to focus in on?
Well, for my business to business, since it's travel, oil and gas travel, and IT travel, IT companies.
IT travel, and what was the other one?
Oil and gas.
Okay. I forgot to put this on, right? So you either know that you're going to go after another business owners, right? So you're looking for the bigger contracts. You're looking to talk to somebody that's maybe in the C-suite, a director role that's going to be able to make those decisions because it's a more B2B conversation. Or you're looking for business to consumer, right? So you're looking for that residential, right? I'm looking to help you sell or stage or buy a house, right? I'm looking for the one-on-one conversation. Sometimes you like that. Sometimes people appreciate the B2C because it's more intimate. It's sitting down, it's asking those questions, right? And that's where I'd say the biggest struggle is for most people is because, again, they run around with this, I have a hammer, everybody needs to use it, but nobody knows that it can be used for all these different functions, is that where you want to start is with the questions. The more powerful the questions, the more that you're able to help them think about why they would need you, right? When you start asking them, oh, so who's filing the taxes? Who's doing the payroll? What are you guys doing with the new changes when it comes to the law changes that occurred last year? How are you keeping track of overtime for employees? How are you keeping track of the full-time employee equivalent calculation? Is that a part of the radar? As you start asking questions, that person then can identify if they need your product or service. How are you telling your story? How are you showing your story? What avenues are you on? Bless you. Okay. Anyone else have a niche that they're looking to partner in?
Well, I'm mortgage specific.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm in business development
Yes.
along with these two ladies here, but I'm mortgage.
So refinancing, financing of homes, right? Commercial as well, or just mainly on the residential side?
Residential.
Right. And so because that then hits everybody, right? The question for you then is what gets you more excited, the new or the refi, right? Is it, so a lot of times when you have a product or service that could be for anybody, right? Where you say, okay, I think anyone can kind of use this. You need to start identifying then who do you want to work with? Do you appreciate, like I think Christina, the new home buyer, right? They don't know anything from Adam. This is the first time they just got married, or it's the first time they're going to buy a house here in Houston, and so they don't know anything about the lay of the land. You love talking to them about the school systems, the different places where the parks are, all this. So you're very in tune with the community surrounding these other areas, right? So you know all about Sugarland, and hey, the In-N-Out's going to be open up there. And by the way, that's exciting. Although I will be honest, I don't find the In-N-Out burger that like hot of cheese, but
It's going to be a special menu.
I've had better.
It's better than White Castle.
It is better than White Castle. That is true. And so that's really where you want to start identifying from a mortgage perspective. Who do you enjoy working with, right? And so if it's someone that you get through, like let's say an online tool that they've kind of already done the numbers, and that's kind of how you're getting it through leads, and you realize that you can't stand those people because they're people that are just looking for the best rate. They're just complete shoppers. They don't care about the relationship, because some people, to Julie's point, they don't care about the relationship. It's just it's of very little importance to them. So remember, you probably have heard, there's different personalities of an individual, a DISC assessment. Are you guys familiar with this? I see some people nodding their heads. Do you remember kind of what's basically the DISC assessment? What's it saying about people, personality?
Was it like I guess who's the introvert who likes to take control of like
yes,
I forgot
the driver.
There you go.
Yes.
Yes. And who's the shy one? Who likes to work with people?
Yes.
And stuff like that. You're just gonna have to find where do you stand, and like to try to be the opposite of who you are.
Absolutely. And so that's basically, you start identifying people in certain personalities. So number one, the first important thing for you to understand is, who am I? Am I a driver that's analytical? I love the numbers. And so when I sit down with somebody and I'm all about the numbers, but they're all about the relationship. So tell me about your family. And so it's really easy when you first sit down with someone to identify what category they're in, is because you'll find out from the questions that they might ask you. So if one of the first questions they ask you is, so kind of cut to the chase, what are you here for? If that's their personality, there's really good odds that they're a driver and they're more analytical. That means they're going to appreciate more the diagnostic of the analysis, the benefits of what you can offer, the value of what you do, versus building a relationship. So when you start saying, hey, well, tell me about your wife, tell me about your kids, the driver's going, dude, shut up and just get to the bottom line. I just want you to tell me what's going on. And so in the relationship perspective, because we're going off of our own personality, we end up rubbing the person the wrong way. The other thing to identify is that it comes down to a little bit more about personality. Personality becomes more crucial as you have a product or service like a mortgage or like residential, where really everybody's a potential client. The question is who do you want to be there? The other thing that I think about in a business where anybody is a product, everybody is a potential client, is who can I get that's always recurring, right? So can I talk to people that are in if they're real estate, they're looking to build a portfolio. So it's the person that wants to buy, high-end stuff in River Oaks, and so they're only looking for that particular area. Or they're the person that's looking to flip homes, so they're looking for foreclosures. But the nice thing about that person from a mortgage perspective, small mortgages, but they're going to flip it quickly, and they're going to get out. They're going to see the value that I can bring to the table. So they're constantly coming back. So they appreciate that relationship because they're a recurring individual. All right. I also have in the packet is, I'm gonna bring this up because I brought it up. So let's see. So this is to address those of you that have asked about kind of thinking outside the box. So So what I would say is, when it comes to the niche, walk through that process, identify who you really want to be talking to, and don't feel bad if you leave people on the wayside. I think one of the easiest things is to first identify what kind of industry do you want to work in. So I put it in here as a way to just think about it. It's right here. It's actually wages is the title, if you go backwards. And it talks about occupations. And it tells you some of the main occupations by population. Okay? So of course, of the 7 million people that we have in Houston, a lot of them are children, a lot of them are infants, a lot of them don't work at a choice, or they're retired. Or they shouldn't, because they should be in school. By law, they should be in school. They should be learning. And so you can identify for yourself, okay, which industry maybe do I want to work in? What is exciting to me? So as Angel identifies, hey, it's people that are in IT, they like the value that we can bring to the table because they're analytical. They end up, in order to go down to Orlando, they end up spending an hour to figure out how to go to Orlando, when you could do it with your tool in literally 2 minutes, right? And so what you're doing is you're giving them back their time, because they know that they want to get a good deal. They're afraid. Most people that are very analytical are afraid to make a mistake. So they need to know the reassurance of why they're going to do business with you. So as you look at that industry, you might find some that just naturally fit well with you. So you might have grew up where mom or dad were in manufacturing, maybe mom or dad were physicians, mom or dad ran their own business, and so you might naturally already fit into one of those realms. You might say, hey, I love working with immigrants because I myself was one. And so I know how to balance between that world. There's a great book out there called Immigrant Edge, with an E though, Immigrant Edge. Well, Edge is with an E. but the immigrant, instead of with an I, is with E. And it's just this whole idea that they want to focus in on that. And so that's really where, for you, you can identify, hey, who do I want to be working with? And then again, the more that you narrow this down, the easier it becomes then for you to focus in on where you want to go. So what we find, even in, let's say, the financial services industry, those that focus only on attorneys, only on doctors, only on business owners, and even the business owners, we even break that down to they only focus on manufacturing companies. They only focus in on physician clinics. As they start niching already, they really start honing in on exactly where they want to be. And so you want to take it through that exercise yourself and identify what is that niche. And it should make you feel this. Happy, right? That's my emoji. That's my emoji. All right, so I'm going to quickly just jump to this because I think this could be helpful for some folks when it comes to, oh, sorry.
Where's that beautiful beach?
There we go. That is a beautiful beach. Not Houston. Okay. So where I'm going to go is to this. Does anyone know who Gary Vaynerchuk is?
Yes.
Okay. Justin does because he worked for this guy.
Oh, really?
So some of you have mentioned social media. This has to be one of the... So he has a book out there called Crushing It, where he breaks down Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, voice to a certain extent, just because it was, and it still is very new from a content perspective, and even Snapchat, which from a social media perspective, again, take it or leave it. I know people have like angst over that thing. But then he came out with this just recently, probably in the last couple months, and he basically came out and shared with you how his team makes about 64 pieces of content every single day on social media. So social media is free, but it takes your most important thing, and that's your time. So you literally could get lost in social media and spend all your time there. But if I'm in IT, I'm in finance, right? LinkedIn is your friend, not Instagram. Although you would love to work with the young and successful on Instagram. Now you could find different influencers or different celebrities and through Twitter or Instagram. But I'd say if I'm focused more on the professional realm, I'd want to be going all in on LinkedIn. I'd want my posts to be able to identify who I am and my value to them on LinkedIn. Now it can't be always about mortgages. You can't be always just talking about your rates, because if you live and die by that, then again you'll live and die by that. And at the same time, remember, if your content's always the same, it's just like watching a commercial on the television. At some point you just start ignoring it.
Right.
The reason why the Super Bowl commercials are so great is because it's the first time we've seen them. And if it isn't, then they shouldn't have spent their $25 million or $50 million for that ad, right. For that high cost. They should be making something unique for it.
I'm curious what your thoughts are, because you mentioned LinkedIn, and I was having a conversation with a networking partner the other day about it, and he was like, absolutely don't do LinkedIn. He's in marketing, and he was kind of instructing me similar, and he was saying have Facebook all day long, but promote it so you pop up on other people's walls, so make a page and that type of thing. And the reason for is because he asked me, he was like, do you spend time on your LinkedIn feed? I was like, well, no, because it's all business stuff, and I don't want to look at that all day.
Yeah.
And I mean, he made a valid point, and it's like, how many people actually do? Maybe I'm the oddball, but how many people do that? To me, I'd rather see a cat flying around on a ceiling fan.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. It's a good point. So what I think you bring up is really, really powerful, because if you think about like your LinkedIn feed, it's not the same desktop as it is to mobile. So number one, on your desktop, it automatically defaults to top or recent, and it has a tendency to show you what other people like. I don't give a crap what other people like, because it's forcing you to see what your connections are not seeing, right? So it's trying to connect you with people that you're not connected with. The value of LinkedIn is that it's your portfolio. It gives me an idea of what you stand for and who you are. And so if you were to Google your name, which is most people they're going to do, right? Before they sit down with you, there's really good odds. How many of you researched me before you came? No one? Oh, perfect. You already know me.
I was a last minute, so I didn't. But
well, you're welcome.
Yeah.
Well, you make a good point, because if I'm looking for CIOs, sometimes I'll just Google them and then try to find them on LinkedIn. I'm trying to find out more information about them.
Yeah,
Where they go to college, what
definitely
are they
the first one.
because if you have a meeting with them, you can have something to talk with them about.
But I'm that one person that I do spend my time on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
Well, I do the same, but it's because I'm terrible with names.
Yep.
So literally all my networking partners, or if I set up a meeting or whatever, and especially I don't want to go up to a random stranger at a lunch and be like, hey, are you Stacy? Or whatever. I will look them up on LinkedIn and then drag that photo to my contacts in my CRM.
Yeah.
So I absolutely do the
That's a
same.
good
It's
idea,
just, yeah.
So then with Facebook, because to the person, the marketing person that told you that, is absolutely right. There's more eyes. Some people will spend 3 minutes on Facebook. They'll spend then 10 seconds on LinkedIn. Some people, though, they'll guilty pleasure, they will tell me they'll spend about 4 hours on Facebook. I'm like, holy cow, that's crazy. But for them, they're watching videos, they're engaging with friends, they're seeing what everyone's up to. Now, they don't do it every single day. I'm sure there are people that do it. But for them, it's just a way for them, on a Friday night, they watch that instead of what's on TV. Now, TV typically is on, but it's just what they're doing, okay? And so that's really where the attention is, right? So from a standpoint of if you're going to spend any marketing dollars, definitely Facebook's a place to be. But from a standpoint of if you want to put forth your portfolio, your resume, business cards are basically dead. Resumes are basically dead. Because the moment that we have someone that's going to come interview with us, we're going to look you up on LinkedIn. We're going to look you up on Facebook. We want to know, did you get drunk last weekend? We want to know, did you do anything stupid? And then on LinkedIn, we want to know, hey, what's up to date? Because if you're not very social for our world, then there's really good odds you're not going to be social in the real world, right? Most people that are social digitally are very social than personally. The other thing, though, for the introverts, this is the perfect tool. You're in your jammies, you're at home at 9 o'clock at night, you can send people a DM. Now, what I'd say for most people is they suck at sending info. Okay? So this is, they call it words matter, right? And catching people's attention. The problem that most people do is when they send some information, they do it poorly. So I'm just going to give you an example here. And I apologize, Facebook, you don't have this. But again, if you want it, you just type it in below and we'll get it to you. So the idea here is use the right wording. So just not a first person. Look at this person. Oh, hey, I hope you're not avoiding me. The last one who tried to avoid me was attacked by a pelican. So really awkward. No, they're really weird, right? But people do this. These are real
It stands out.
threats aren't cute no matter if you use wildlife, right? But this first one is, hey, I came across your profile and knew that we would actually absolutely perfect fit for the role that I have. So the problem with using the word perfect is what?
It's not realistic.
It's not realistic and you don't know me. So how would you know? So it sounds more like a bot, right? It sounds like you're from Russia and you don't really know what I'm doing. Or you're from Nigeria and you have a great opportunity for me to invest in your cryptocurrency. All right, so then, so 5 comma miss, I'll really keep this short. Typically then it's not short. To make a long story short, that's typically, people say that after they've talked for 5 minutes about the same story. I found you on LinkedIn. Just look at that. When you say that, 80% drop. But this is what most people will say when they're connecting with somebody that they haven't yet met. Love your background. Seems to be a good increase. Now, I would say, in sincerity and having some type of integrity, let that be truthful. Like, look on their LinkedIn. Like, actually go through and be like, yes, I like that you worked at that bank. I like that you've done this. I think, you being a CFO, you might find value in what we're doing and helping alleviate what you're doing work-wise. Pass this on. No, that doesn't help. But what I will say, what does help if you're more of a phone call person, is calling everybody. I would do this on the mortgages, by the way, Stephanie. I would call everybody and just say, hey, I know you're not in the market. I really respect you, by the way. Do you know anyone that's in the market right now? Buy their house or they want to refinance, right? And so I had somebody there in marketing. They literally called me. And they're like, hey, Sherm, I know you're Louisville connected. Who do you know? I know you're not in the market. Who do you know, right? So that is the best conversation.
Because you're asking for referrals, right?
Basically, that's what you're doing.
That's what
right?
you're doing,
All right, so always lead with a compliment, and it's got to be sincere, right? So that, like, you know, I haven't heard you since high school, which for me is like 20-some years ago. 23. So that if they say that to me, like, oh, sure, I really respect you, I love what you're doing, I'll be like, dude, how do you know? Like, where is this coming from, right? What do you need? What do you want from me? It's probably Amway. You probably want me to join your network. I'll call you on Tuesday. Again, you're basically forcing that person to live within your calendar.
Right.
Yeah.
Wrong choice. Calendly. Does anyone use that?
Yeah.
What is that? Describe that real quick.
It's basically a calendar that people can search your calendar and find a time for an appointment. So it gives them the big picture view of your entire calendar.
So this one helps you avoid the back and forth.
Right.
Back and forth, right? Hey, Tony, can you meet at 3? No, can you meet at 3? So it's free. Now, if you want to have more than one option, where you can be like, hey, I want you to meet me for 30 minutes, I want you to meet me for an hour, you can pay for that, okay?
Right.
I think it's pretty inexpensive, like $10 or something.
Yeah,
And then you are what you write. Just remember, these are your words. So if you don't like to proofread your emails, proofread them. You're going to have to, because the person that you're reaching out to, if let's say you misspelt why, like your versus you are, right? This one, and you're in the business of details, and you're like, oh, I'm a detail-oriented person. No, you're not. A detail-oriented person would notice that immediately.
I will say this: nobody sits there and there's only benefits to actually having good grammar, because nobody's going to sit there and focus on if everything is correct, right? They're not going to be like, oh, well, they're too punctual or whatever, you know, like.
Yep.
They're going to sit there and take note. Like, I would take note of that. I'd be like, man, this dude is ignorant.
Yep.
And they might be very intelligent. They're just not good,
Yes.
you know, with words. So, but anyway.
My brother has dyslexia. He will send us, the family, his emails. So, with like a really important one, if he's trying to prospect somebody. Because he knows that he's going to misspell the I and the E. And the spell check only gets you so far, right? And so we'll all go and, dude, totally wrong. Here it is. We just copy and paste it now at this point. So, again, understand yourself. He's a creative, so, you know, that's just not his space. And then words can call people to action. So again, an appointment, that's too heavy of a word. Conversation, heck, even chit chat might be helpful. So I'll send this to you guys so that we can kind of see they have some more examples and what could be helpful. This one, recruiting jargon, lowering the chance. Instead, try chatter talk instead of meeting, appointment, a conversation, connecting with you. Chatter talk just sounds more informal. I'd say the other thing that are any of you leveraging digital, like Zoom, meeting,
Team.
like a video conference tool.
Yes.
Okay, Zoom, yes.
So
Skype, GoToMeeting, that's the one I'm thinking, GoToMeeting. So that's an option that you can give to someone and say, hey, don't know if you're open to meeting. We can either do it digitally or face-to-face. So give people an option. I remember I had met somebody face-to-face at a networking event. She's out in Katy, and she's like, sure, can't meet you face-to-face just because I need to kind of be at my office. But if you want to do it, we can do it through Zoom. And I was like, absolutely, let's do it. And so the nice thing is that meeting started exactly at that right time and ended in a half hour. And so for her, instead of taking the 30 minutes drive from Katy to out here or some point, spending the $5 on Starbucks coffee or 10 because someone's treating somebody, we could avoid that. So leveraging technology, we're getting more comfortable with using that. And find that text messages are extremely powerful as well as a way to be able to get me connecting with people. It's pretty inexpensive. Your response rate on texts are way high because they do respond to them. So if you can collect people's texts, you're seeing that happen more and more. Heck, I would do it if you can get the bank to sign up for it. It's just a phenomenal tool.
Another recommendation I would say is try to communicate in the way that the person prefers. Like some of my friends, they only want a phone call. They don't want me to text them. They don't want me to email them. Some people, like a good friend of mine, like Artie Yoder over at lead, he only texts. Like you can't, if you call him on the phone, he will not answer the phone. But if you text him, he'll respond. So it depends on, you try to match your communications to whatever they're best at communicating, email or whatever.
Yeah, that's good. So if you have that conversation with someone and you find out, hey, the best way to communicate with me is blah,
By email.
then follow that, right? So if they say, hey, the best way to contact me is text, then just make sure you text them. Now, one of the biggest struggles on the business development side is that we're on the offensive. So typically, the biggest struggle that we have with people in the sales and marketing realm is you have to have more no's than yeses. That's just the reality of stats, right? No matter which way we shake it, you're going to get denied and rejected constantly, usually twice more than you're going to get the yeses. So when we look at it, now number one is that in order to get that trust, if you have a referral process, that's going to be crucial. So do any of you have like a good referral language or referral letter or questioning? Does anyone have something that they use from a referral standpoint? No?
Now, what do you mean by for asking for referrals?
Bingo.
Or,
Yeah.
Okay, I got you.
So this is where I'd say you can take, this is I guess 101. We're gonna wrap up here in about 5-7 minutes, okay? So when it comes to sitting out with somebody, I know Christina, and in order to make my meeting with her very productive for me, I'm going to come prepared. Now we're connected on LinkedIn and all, and it depends on how connected the other person or how active they are on LinkedIn. Okay, so I have people that have only 10 people. Don't waste your time because they're not even on LinkedIn at all. And so, but Christina's active on it. So what I'll do is I know what I'm looking for. I know who I'm looking for. And so what I'll do is I'll go on her connections because we're already connected, and I'm going to search through. And I'm going to find 6 to 8 people. The reason why 6 to 8 is because 10 is too many and 4 is just not enough, right? So 6 to 8 is good. If you want to go right in there in the middle and go average, 7 is good, right? So the whole idea here is I'm going to create what's called a feeder list. A feeder list is when I sit down with Tony, or let me just stay with Christina. I know I'm looking for this specific person. It's a physician. So I'll first go in there and I'll look for doctors in her connections. Scroll through. This will take me about 10 minutes, just so you know. And then I'll copy those names. I'll put it down. I'll say, okay, Memorial Hermann, Texas Children's. I'll put where these people work, but I'll put their names. And I'll say, Christina, I need some of your help. I want to be introduced to some people. But I did a little snooping on your LinkedIn. And I saw these 8 people. I want to reach out to them. Who should I not contact? So basically, I've already done the homework for it. I don't need to say, hey, who do you know? Because, again, that's just dead language. I get paid in 2 ways. You give me referrals or you do business with me. That's just garbage, right? Because it's all about me. But this is, hey, maybe you can help me out. Here's some names. And so what she'll do is she'll go, oh, I don't really know that person at all. That's just my OBGYN. I see them annually. Don't know how well I know them. And then so what she'll do is she'll self-select people out. But typically, if I give her a list of 8, 5 or 4, about half are going to be like worth calling. I'm going to say, Christina, is it okay that I say that you and I have met? She has no idea if they need my services or not. Nobody does, right? I have no idea who needs IT services, but I can make the introduction to so-and-so, right? But when you do the work of doing that feeder list, it makes it much more easy. The other one that I would have that people don't take advantage of is their clients, client appreciation. So the biggest one, and this is not new, but I'd say for a lot of organizations, completely is. And so what you want to do is you want to segment out your clients. This doesn't mean that they get crap services thirsty. It just means that they get less touches from you. And so what you want to identify, so what I would do, Stephanie, beginning part of the year, who was the best clients here last year that bought? 8 clients, $500,000 or more of mortgage, right? And I would have an event for them. I'd say, hey, come, and again, try to identify what would be a useful event for them, right? So if you can kind of know them personally, like, hey, they love the Texans, they love, they love golf. Identify what could be a good activity for them. Maybe a spa day or something, right? But you want to be there. And so what you'll do is you'll reach out to those 8 clients and you'll say, hey, you know what? We want to be able to meet with you, and we want to be able to throw a little party for you. We want to do something for you that's significant because we appreciate your business. And we want you to bring a friend. Or when you're there, you have a more structured way of asking for referrals in a very professional manner. But what you'll find is these clients that are A's, typically they loved what you did. They were happy. They were satisfied. And there's really good odds, birds of the feather flock together. They'll put you in front of other A-type clients. And that's really the best place to go. So first start with the no's, start with these people. Now you might not have this all segmented out, and that's fine. But take the time to be able to go through your client list and say, where are my people? And it just means that they're getting more touches, right? So C clients, they might get the annual thank you card. They might get a Happy New Year email. They might be on a quarterly email from you. The Bs, they get a phone call that, hey, how are you doing? The A's, they're people I want to sit down with constantly because I don't want them to go anywhere else. Right? I want them to make sure that they are happy and satisfied here with me. And so I want to make sure that maybe on a monthly basis, I'm trying to provide value to them. Right? Whether that's, hey, did you see this article? I'm going to send this PDF to you. Oh, hey, I see it's been like 6 months since we sat down. Let's go grab coffee. Hey, I know that it's your birthday. Let's go have birthday. By the way, once you're out of your 20s, the only people that would wish you happy birthday are people on Facebook because Facebook told them, or on LinkedIn because LinkedIn told them. I'm sure Facebook will buy them eventually. And then mom. Right. Even their siblings forget that it's their birthday. So if you can remember that it's their birthday, it puts you at a different level. Right? I knew another guy, he would use people's anniversaries. Just got to be careful with that because not everybody keeps those anniversaries. So it was always a good reminder. That's what he'd do it. He'd say, hey, Jim, I see your anniversary's coming up next week. Just wanted to wish you a happy anniversary. Let's get together again. Right? So it's just part of, again, his questions to his clients was, when's your anniversary? You want to be able to make sure that when you get in front of a client, that you can work just as hard to keep them as a raving fan and a cheerleader for you. Questions or comments?
Not a question, but a comment on the birthday. Sometimes I've called my clients, my past clients, on their birthday, and they're like, thanks. You're like the only phone call I've gotten. I'm like, oh.
That's awesome.
Everybody's like texting them.
Well, good for you. Like, and that puts you a step above, right?
Right.
Yeah, I got a card from my insurance agent. He's like, hey, Ray, like he wrote it. Hey, happy, like it says happy birthday. And he said, just wanted to wish you a happy birthday, but he wrote that. And I was just like, I texted him and I was like, dude, oh my gosh, I got a card from you. I've never gotten a card from an insurance. Mm-hmm. So yeah,
powerful. Mm-hmm. So there's really good odds that you'll stay with them.
Yeah.
Now, unless they do something dramatic, right, and like they raise the rates twice, or you might even find that, hey, I don't mind paying an extra 10% if I get. Like handwritten letters is just that one step above, right? Mm-hmm. Especially in today's world where we don't get any letters anymore. It's totally worth the time. And it doesn't matter about what you write, by the way. My handwriting is horrible, but I get some nice positivity out of it. So you want to identify then, what is your customer service model? For most people, they don't have one. That's where you want to start first. Nothing new. The new part is, why don't we save that for next time, where we can dive in deep on this. I think this is crucial for a lot of people. One, because you know that you need to be on this space. You just don't know how to be on this space. And what can you be doing to be able to share your story? Obviously, someone like Justin can help anybody create that story and be the storyteller. So a lot of times, from the standpoint of, I think one of the biggest struggles is people are like, well, I'm not a selfie person. Like, I don't want to be doing this. I don't want to take photos of my food. Well, nobody wants to see the photos of your food unless you're a chef. Then again, I don't want to see the photo. I want to see you make it. Right? Like, show me. Like, the whole reason why the Food Network exists is because people like to watch it being made. Right? Julia Child was literally the pioneer of that. Then came, Emeril Lagasse and then everybody else. So that's the whole idea. So why don't we save this for February, and we can go into more detail there. And that's really where we'll leave it here. The final, what's coming up next here is, we do have a book club this Friday if you want to come. We're going to be talking about Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. We broke up that book into just chapters, so that way it's a little more bite-sized. We are running a networking event over in the morning at CIT Bank off of San Felipe. And then another business development session based on your guys' what you'd want to hear. We'll have that focus in on social media, kind of recap a little bit of crushing it, and also that how to create 64 pieces of content. So feel free, if there's anything that we can do to help provide value in this kind of setting, let us know. If you want to invite friends, this is kind of where it is. So any other comments or questions, everybody?
And we are having a networking event again.
Oh yes,
at the office
right.
on January 16th. Drinks, food involved with the Houston West Chamber of Commerce. It's a good opportunity for you to to meet them as well. So it's from 4 to 6.
Yep.
January 16th, Thursday.
Yeah. It's coming up next week. It's
And
crazy.
the book club is also at this office.
Yeah,
So
book club's
both
here.
events.
Yeah, the only one that's not here is the CIT Bank, just because we partnered up with the bank to be able to hold something. Michelle, no offense, but you know, you're more than welcome as well. Okay, we're not selective. We love sharing ourselves with everybody. All right, everybody. So thanks again for coming, and feel free to just network and pass out cards and get to know each other. And I'm just going to sign off here. All right, everybody.